Oh, you want me to read the original Fallout Equestria?
No, it's boring.
Yeah, that's boring.
There's no comedy in that.
What's wrong with it?
Fallout Equestria Broken Bonds, the Cloptacular. Oh no!
Oh,
Oh
yes.
no!
not
This
bad.
is the story by
I don't
Kit.
want to. I don't want to listen to that.
That's what I think
Oh
about.
my!
Ooh.
No, I have to.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Get your cyanide pills ready, kids.
Okay. In exchange to remember, Red Eye and Little Pip.
Oh no.
Yes.
After hours of considering ways to deal with the troubles ahead of me, I came to decide there was only one solution to the issue at hand. Red Eye's encampment outside of Ten Pony Tower threatened one of the few remaining bastions of civility and hope for ponykind, and I couldn't let them down. I couldn't let them be attacked by the balefire bomb that he had somewhere nearby. After I'm done reading Kip's story, I'll read Project Human.
Oh yes.
Oh, yes.
I promise you that, Snipe. Nix and goddamn it.
Oh, no.
Do it.
Okay, anyways, there was no way I would be able to find it alone. Hours of searching would do me no good if I had no idea of where the bomb might be hidden, and even if I had a clue, there was no doubt at all that such an item of importance to his plan would be guarded heavily. Perhaps too heavily for a solo mission.
Jesus.
Who the fuck is doing that?
That's
That
too...
was Tuner.
I will kill you! Be quiet. Thank you.
Spoken.
Velvet would never agree to such an idea, to simply kill ponies based upon their affiliation without any sort of proof, without any reason coming from them in the form of bullets being shot at us. Without our medic, not even Steelhooves' firepower could turn the tide of this fight. No, I had to look elsewhere. Brute force wasn't going to do any good. Instead, I had to use charm. Perhaps if, as guilty, I had to do it. I had to take more Mentals. They would be the only way I could possibly convince Red Eye to give up control of the bomb.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah, brother!
Oh, that was pretty good, Armix.
Let me tell you something, brother.
Thoughts ran through my head as I stared at the box, a river of memories, both good and bad, flushing through me. The disappointment Velvet and Homage held when I took them stood at one side, while sweet, sweet moments of clarity and ability to truly think about everything and perceive every little detail when I was taking them was just too essential. Not only that, but they made me feel that much more confident in myself when it came to social matters, that I could talk down any opponent, and hopefully Red Eye. Before I knew it, two were already in my mouth, and a wash of colors came over me, and then the world felt much, much clearer. I understood how brilliant my plan was now. I knew it was definitely the right decision. Now I only had to go to his encampment and speak to him. That was it. It would be an easy ride. Is this... Oh, wait. This story is like... Oh, no. It's only the one chapter. Okay, good. I thought it was like multiple chapters. Yes, it is, Godog. This is the Red Eye Little Pip Fic.
The fuck? Muted the beautiful.
Sliding another two of the chalky tablets onto my tongue as I walked up to the guards protecting Red Eye's main camp away from Philadelphia, I gave them all a winning smile and kept my guns holstered. There was no need for violence when you were as cool as me. Stop! Who the hell are you, and why are you daring to come here? You're not one of our patrols. Identify yourself before we shoot. One screamed at me with way too much anger. It was almost as if he never took the time to enjoy himself with so much pent-up stress. Chill. It's okay, guys. My name is Little Pip, and Red Eye is expecting me, I said confidently. Okay, sure, he hadn't actually been expecting me, but if they took my word for it, they'd let me in. And if they did get in touch with him, I was certain he would let me through. And what authority do you have to tell me who he is and isn't expecting, huh? You believe I'm just to let any old mayor walk up to the boss's quarters and potentially try to put a bullet through his head? I'm not that stupid. We don't just let anyone in, and definitely not because they've simply said so. Well, that's fine, but what are you going to say to him when he asks you why I never managed to talk to him face to face? What are you going to say when he questions you and finds out you turned me away or shot me? If I end up getting hurt by your hooves, you can count yourself as good as a warm-up for the next pit match. And if I get turned away and killed by some of the wildlife, Red Eye loses a powerful potential ally, and you get demoted to slave. So, what will it be? You can always ask him yourself, you know. Looking at the two guards, the first one stood stony-faced as he had before, though I could see a drip of sweat running down his brow as he considered the options. Worrying thoughts placed into his head, and now unsure of what to do. His friend was a lot more compliant, quickly lowering his weapon and looking to the other guard. Look, what if she's telling the truth? If she is telling the truth, and we don't let her through, we're fucked. I don't want to be a slave. They'd tear me apart in minutes if they had the chances. Besides, if Red Eye turns around and tells us to send her away or try capture her, then we can do it and be sure, right? Just hold on here, and I'll go find out, okay? Without taking his eyes off me, the first guard nodded. Okay, but be quick. I don't like this one bit.
What the fuck?
Armix, your house is burning down.
Oh shit. That was.
I hope Armix is okay.
That's okay. Okay, good. That was more than mildly worrying.
Oh shit, Armix's house is on fire. Okay, hold on. We need to find out if Armix is going to be okay.
I don't think he'd still be.
Hey, if you're reading
posting
another
in
story
chat
after
if he
this,
wasn't.
should
He
read
came
Bunkmates.
back to hear your dulcet tones.
Is
even
everything
as his
okay,
house
Armix?
burnt around it.
Ooh.
It's definitely got to be Celestia's Day Out if you're going to read something. after
Spicy.
Armix, is everything okay?
Everything is fine.
Okay, good.
For some reason, my fucking fire alarm just went off.
And there's no smoke. It just went off.
Fucking went off.
It's confirmed that this story is too
Battery's
hot
out,
for
man.
Armix's house to
It's
handle.
too hot. It's too fucking
Too hot to handle. Anyways, moving on. Very clear. Do not let you have a chance to disobey or try disarm us. They were his
Should read
words.
Bunkmates.
So you wanted to see Red Eye. Stand still and let us take your guns. We'll return them after you're done with the meeting. Once you're leaving and only then. Got it? Nodding in acceptance, there was nothing I could say or do anyway. I understand. I'll play by the rules. This was what I had wanted, after all. Before I knew it, all was said and done. I was disarmed, double-checked, and then triple-checked for any contraband items. My lockpicks and screwdriver were taken away from me for security reasons, which saddened me a little, but the mentals I had on me were left alone, and with those, I didn't need such tools anyway. As long as Red Eye and his guards kept their words, I would get my gear back after all. Making my way up to Red Eye's office, flanked on either side by a different set of guards from the previous two, a sense of suspense gripped me tightly as their claws knocked on the door. Let her enter, though let her come in alone, a familiar, charming voice called out. I have things I wish to speak to her about, one-to-one, and I do not wish to make her uncomfortable. Shrugging in confirmation of hearing the order, one of the griffins reached over to the door handle and opened it, letting it swing freely and turning his back to me before walking back to where he had come from. The other waited for a moment before doing the same, seemingly leaving me alone with Red Eye. This was my chance. Fucking Deco, I'm coming up with it on the spur of the moment, alright? I can't... I have a voice for Red Eye, but I can't think of it right now, okay? God, get off my fucking sack.
Yeah, plan ahead.
Quickly taking out my box of mint towels, I slipped another two into my mouth and chewed quickly before Red Eye could notice. Or so I had hoped. Looking around the well-lit room, I couldn't see the red-colored pony who had so nonchalantly beckoned me into his private quarters. Judging from the sound he had made, however, he could see me as he snickered to himself, causing me to feel uneasy. Little Pip, I'm glad to meet you again. I wondered when you would come back to see me, and I had a feeling you would do. I must say, I am rather pleasantly surprised you'd come here on such terms, though, and to try to charm me, no less. Charm him? Really? I wasn't aware that that manipulating an opponent to get what you needed was charming to him. Oh, the look on your face says it all, little Pip. Look to your left. Doing as he requested, I saw his well-kempt mane hanging down his face loosely as he smiled warmly at me in return. The way he looked at me was with surprising kindness, though I suspected he was just playing coy and trying to lower my defenses. Keeping that in mind, however, I suppose I had to do the same and quickly let myself relax to lull him into a sense of security. That's good to see. I don't want you feeling like you can't relax around me, little Pip. I try my best to be a good leader, to do what I must for the greater cause. Isn't that what we all want at the end of the day? Before I could respond, he quickly turned his head and pointed over to his sofa, nodding his head. Please, sit down and make yourself comfortable. You must have traveled quite some way to reach me and be feeling tired from your journey. And, though it's normally the duty of the owner to provide, be a good guest, will you? Lifting my eyebrows as if to ask him what he was on about, he quickly caught my look and explained himself. Oh, you don't think I didn't notice, did you? What, with you chewing upon a mint towel at my every door? Why, party time flavor, no less? It could be considered rude to not bring a gift to a party, would it not? Celestia, damn it! I had really hoped you wouldn't notice me doing that. With a little sigh before grinning wide to hide my annoyance, I guess I didn't have much choice in the matter either way. I was in the middle of one of the most dangerous places in all of Equestria, face to face with the most powerfully influential pony, no less. Giving in to his request, I levitated two of the pills over to his hoof and watched him quickly gulp them down as if they were nothing out of the ordinary. I must thank you. It has been a while since I've had the pleasure of having such fine company and such a gracious gift. Now, little Pip, may I ask why you came here? You wouldn't do just to come and have a face-to-face talk with nothing coming out of it, would you? Doing my best not to stumble over myself was a lot harder now my opponent had the same beneficial edge that I had from the start. Beforehand, I felt confident and secure in my thought of being able to say anything and get away with it. But now he had equaled out the playing field, and just by looking at me, I could feel the blood rush to my cheek. I have come to speak to you about the threat to Ten Pony Tower that you have currently ongoing. Oh, is that so? Red-Eye cooed in a soothing yet unnerving voice, slick charm of his words making my stomach feel different as he carefully sat himself next to me. What in particular is it about the matter you would like to discuss? Pausing for the slightest of moments to collect my thoughts, I casually brushed my mane back out of the way of my eyes with a careless hoof. In an attempt to unsettle Red-Eye in his attempt to keep focused, I gave him a small smile and reached out to him, gently caressing one of his forelegs. Well, not only are my friends currently in the tower, but also a lot of innocent ponies. Sure, it would be easy enough for myself and my friends to simply leave the tower, but I'm more worried about those who would have nowhere else to possibly go. The wasteland is a dangerous place after all. Nodding in appreciation, Red-Eye took a moment before looking away, staring out one of the windows into the wasteland past. This is true, Little Pip. Some would say that Philadelphia is one of the most dangerous places because of one of our methods, but others, like myself, know its true qualities. Philadelphia is a safe haven for many, many ponies, because we strive for a better world. A world that no longer uses the term wasteland and simply Equestria instead. Okay, that may be true, I quickly interjected as politely as I could, eager to counter his point. But so is Ten Pony Tower. Just like Philadelphia, their methods may not always seem as the most kind by some, but they are there. This is why I'd like you to remove your forces and hand me the balefire bomb you have at your disposal. Knock at the door. With a squeaky, nervous voice, the pony called out, Master Red-Eye, I apologize for any disruption. I simply come with the hors d'oeuvres as you requested. Ah, yes. Feel free to come in, Red-Eye quickly commanded. Without hesitation, the waiting pony quickly made his way into the room and deposited an arrangement of light dinner snacks and a bottle of wine with 2 glasses onto the table ahead of us. A bottle of wine sitting in a small metal tube, surrounded by ice of all things. How do you get ice? I quickly pondered aloud, forgetting myself for a moment as curiosity overwhelmed me. There was much better questions to be asked, but for all of a moment that held me for too long, I was fascinated by the presence of ice outside of a stable. Little Pip, my dear, I come from a stable, just as you had, remember? When I left and sought to make the world a better place, I began by utilizing the stable's own resources to improve what I saw. This is just one of those things. Now, would you be interested in any of this red wine? I would feel awfully lonesome if I was left to drink it alone. And of course, we could continue to talk about what we were beforehand. While part of me screamed that it was a bad idea, an even bigger amount made me want to give in. Everything from the way he looked at me and spoke to me, the way he pulled the glass over to my side before popping the bottle, was just something I'd never experienced before. My better senses told me to pull away, but instead I dove further in and blushed more as he carefully filled my glass in accordance to my nod of approval. I'm glad you would be such a delightful guest, Little Pip. I honestly so rarely get to have such civility with those who don't fully agree with me. Please, make yourself comfortable however you wish, and don't hesitate to try the appetizers. They are, after all, with you in mind. Now, what was it you would propose to me? Taking a deep breath, I prepared myself for repeating my previous request. Red-Eye, I would greatly appreciate it if you could stand your forces down from Ten Pony Tower and grant possession of the balefire bomb to me. For a moment, Red-Eye glanced at me with a strangely cool look before taking a sip of wine, somehow prompting my telekinetic powers to levitate my own glass and take a swill myself. The taste of the bittersweet wine ran along my tongue and down my throat, leaving a flavor of passion I couldn't deny that I simply adored. A smile on my face pressed my cheeks higher as I appreciated the warmth it brought. So, what would you do with such a dangerous object, Little Pip? What makes you so certain that I would simply hand away such a trump card? My own life would be put at risk by letting you have it. But this isn't something I'm worried for. No. I am much more worried about the destructive force of such a tool. Do you know how much damage such an item could do to any settlement it's used against? Nodding carefully as I placed the glass back on the table, I took a moment to catch my breath and clear my head. The effects of the wine were quickly making their mark on my mind, even through the clarity of the mentals. Still, my mind was capable enough to make my arguments, and something about the wine was starting to make me feel a little more confident again. Breathing deeply as I closed my eyes, I began to speak. I understand your worries. I do. Such a weapon could even cripple Philadelphia if used against it in the right fashion, in the right location, with the right circumstances. However, this isn't my intention. Such an attack would kill far too many innocent ponies, and ultimately do an infinite amount of bad compared to what little good it might manage, perspectives warranting. However, I'm aware that we have a somewhat mutual opponent ourselves, in the form of the goddess. If such a weapon were to be used against her, lowering his glass before topping up both of ours with some more wine, Red-Eye quietly hummed to himself as if lost in thought over the proposition. The fact that he hadn't immediately rejected the idea, or even shown any disregard to it, left me feeling full of hope that he might agree to such an action. It is true, he soon spoke with a tone so charming that my body began to tingle, that we both find the goddess to be in our way. Though I work alongside the Alicorns, I do find their leadership to be somewhat unsettling, and I know that ultimately our goals are conflicting. Neither of us can accept the other if we are to achieve our sought destiny. Taking another sip of my wine, he quickly followed suit and licked his lips in appreciation, and then gave a long, soulful stare in my direction. If I was to allow you access to such a dangerous item, I trust you would have a plan. Truthfully, I'm glad you would approach me with such an opportunity. To do it myself is impossible. To find some pony I could trust as much as you, well. Raising his glass and finishing what was left in it, which again somehow prompted me to do the same, he refilled both of our portions with what remained from the bottle. Though there wasn't enough for 2 full glasses remaining, he made sure to be a true gentlecolt and fill my glass first, leaving him with only half a glass before the source ran dry. Picking it up before trotting back to the window and watching the sun shimmering in the sky as it poked through the minute cracks and challenged the clouds themselves, the way it set over the wasteland was a beautiful sight from where we were. Perhaps it was the drink. Perhaps it was all the mentals, or even the ones he had taken himself. Perhaps it was something else, but I never would know for sure. All I knew was that despite the slight uneasiness of imbalance in my head, my chest swelled with warmth, and my whole body tingled from the experience. Picking myself off the sofa and trotting over to him, I joined him in his gaze and looked at the world ahead of us. Using my magic, I brought our glasses to our lips, and we took one last drink, finishing them both. Though I would have never thought so before, at this very moment, he looked so handsome to me. I found it weird that I could have such feelings about a stallion. I wasn't into them, but it felt as natural as it had crushing on velvet. Realizing the thoughts going through my head, I began blushing harder than I had before, and let out a small, unintentional squeak. Red-Eye being himself simply let out a small chuckle as we stood together, and then it happened. Leaning over to me, he brushed his muzzle against my ear as he began to whisper,
Little Pip, if I am to give you such an advantage, I need something from you in return. 2 things, actually.
What are those? I questioned without grace, without stability. The scent of his body making mine react in ways it didn't normally, making my legs feel unstable for more than just being drunk.
You must promise me you have to plan to use it against the goddess for the good of ponykind, for one.
With that, he paused, prompting me to question what the second thing he wanted in return was.
Secondly, I want you to give in. I want you to give in.
Give in? I asked hesitantly. Deep down, I knew what he meant, but a small part of me still didn't want to believe what I was hearing. A small part of me that insisted I was lesbian, that I loved homage, was being drowned out by my own desire. The way he spoke, the way he looked at me, the way he walked, everything he was doing was perfect, almost as if he had planned it out from the start and knew exactly how to get to me. Oh baby, a triple! My body's reaction to his command froze me in anticipation and lust as much as it did uncertainty. Just as doubt was filling my mind, a new thought came along. If I said no, he wouldn't give me the all-essential item, and my whole experience here would have been for nothing. Without a thought, I found myself whimpering as I looked down at the floor. But I'm a... Gently he cooed to me, curious to what I had to say.
Go on, please.
His request gently spurring me to let him know what I had to say. I'm a virgin, I softly added, much to his surprise by the way he looked at me. He didn't jump back and act strangely about it. No. He didn't jump and act strangely about it, no. Instead, he looked over me again before leaning in and gently licking along the ridge of my ear, before nibbling at the top, causing me to unceremoniously release the essence of a moan to his touch.
Little Pip,
Whispered gently.
that's not an issue. If I wanted somebody who I was sure had plenty of experience with stallions, I would have chosen almost any of the mares who work for me. No. I want you. I want you specifically. I wouldn't force you, but it is you who I desire, no matter what your past experiences or lack thereof.
Hold on, let me vote in this Jetwave poll real quick. Looking up at him, I still couldn't wrap my head around the situation. So much of me was confused about the sensations running through me as he gently chewed on the tip of my ear again, waves of pleasure running down my spine. I wanted it, but I had never thought myself capable of being with a stallion, not like this. Why was I acting so differently all of a sudden? It wasn't the alcohol alone. I'd been drunk around stallions plenty of times without doing this, and yet I was excited. Just as the thoughts began to slowly consume and distract me, Red Eye's lips pressed against my own, and my eyes went wide from the shock. With a teasing pressure as they parted, I leaned in further, continuing the kiss before either of us could know what we were doing, or where this was going. My heart raced as my eyelids fell shut, and my whole body took over, a slave to the moment and the pleasures it brought. No matter how I had felt before, no matter what worries I held, they all melted away and left me feeling limp from one moment. As the kiss ended, I opened my eyes again to look at my new partner. The way he smiled at me, the way his mane slid over his ear and over the cybernetic eye. It was incredible just how attractive he was to me. Just like that, he was all I could see and all I could want. Biting my lower lip as he leant in, kissed along the length of my neck, I let out a small gasp for every time that suckling sensation came. Red Eye, are you... I mumbled, unable to control myself under the tension of what was happening.
Am I what?
He asked with the greatest of care. His voice sounded not like a leader speaking to a subject, but almost as if he held the greatest of emotions for me. The sweetness in his tone only replicated the kindness of his touch, and everything in my body begged for more. Are you sure you're okay with this? I'm so nervous. Please be gentle with me. I felt ashamed for saying it, for needing to ask. Still, shaken from both longing and from worry, I needed the reassurance. Almost as if he could read my mind, Red Eye stopped and caressed my cheek with a hoof before pressing his lips back to mine, and slowly began to tease my tongue with his own. Melting into his touch, I became putty as he made the world fade away. As the kiss ended, he spoke in the most confident yet kind voice I had heard from any stallion.
I promise you, little Pip, I won't be rough. There's something truly special about you, and especially seeing as this is your first time. I'll show you all of the sensations without being a brute. You've just got to trust in me. Do you trust in me, little Pip?
Flickering my eyes from the floor and onto him, I gave a small nod in my answer, yes. Without warning, Red Eye slipped past me and brushed my nose with his tail before sliding his tongue along the length of my cutie mark, shivering yet again from the bolts of pleasure that ran along my spine. It was unexpected, but utterly appreciated. Before I could react or do a thing, his hot breath was pressing against my eagerly lifting tail, exposing myself to him fully. I could almost feel his gaze at my virgin marehood, only serving to spread more blood to both my cheeks and my tender lips as they grew from the excitement. Wondering what he would do as I stood frozen in time by inexperience, I quickly dropped my face to the floor as a swipe from his tongue ran from one side to the other of my behind. Keeping my ass raised for him was hard when the temptation to fall onto the floor and go fully limp was strong, but I knew that it would be much more pleasurable like this. From my viewpoint, I began to see a sight that I wasn't all too familiar with, but now appreciated as much as many others. In front of my face stood this red stallion with his members stiff and protruding from his body, as if it was begging for the chance to show me what life was all about. Gingerly, I pushed my head closer toward it, only to be stopped by the sensation of a tongue snaking past my labia and down my clit. My eyes grew wider, my breathing much heavier, as the sensations grew and grew. Little by little, his tongue pressed deeper between the lips and into me properly, driving me wild. The need to let out a groan overwhelmed me when an unexpected slap came to my flank. "I can feel your breath down there." "I can feel your breath down there," my partner announced. "Go ahead. It won't bite. You might even find you enjoy it, like I am you." Letting out a squeak as I began to blush furiously, Red Eye began wrapping his tongue around my clit and sucking loudly. Now my moans were getting louder and louder, more than I could keep focus on. In an attempt to stifle myself, I slid his member onto my tongue and began to push my head forward. Slowly, my nips surrounded the head before allowing it access into my mouth, and further still. A small, passive thrust came from his hips as I worked his length into my mouth, something I quickly found to be nothing hard to accept nor handle despite my worries. Letting out a surprisingly primal grunt, Red Eye quickly gripped one of his hooves around one of my rear legs and suckled hard on the side of my labia, causing me to moan despite my full mouth.
You're so innocent, little Pip. That only makes this feel all the better.
Hearing his praise made me squeal in both delight and pleasure as he slapped me again, hard enough to feel fantastic, but not too much that it hurt. Now I could feel myself dripping from the mix of his saliva and my own juices. With every passing second, I only came to want it more and more. Just like that, he stopped and slowly slid his member from my mouth, despite my initial attempt to slide my head further in confusion. Taking control of the situation, he quickly threw one hoof over my back and thrusted hard. My eyes grew wide with the sudden shock of the length sliding its way down close to my throat, and he gave me again another thrust, this time with less force. With a small gag, he quickly withdrew and slid his weight off my back, grinning down at me as I looked up at him. "Sorry, little Pip. I just couldn't help myself for a moment. When you tried to continue, it just got me so excited. How about I repay you by focusing on you alone for a moment, With my marehood winking hard already, part of me was tempted to simply say go for the goal already. Still, an almost guaranteed orgasm definitely sounded like fun, and so with the greatest smirk on my face, I energetically agreed. Yes, please! Biting his lower lip with a smirk of his own, Red-Eye licked the back of my ear and whispered for me to go and take one of the cushions from the sofa to rest my head upon. Keep my rear raised, so he may have the best access. With great glee, I quickly did as he asked, using my magic to pull one of the soft lumps over to me and raising my tail for him before closing my eyes and waiting in anticipation of the oncoming delight. It wasn't long before the sensation of his tongue returned and my head filled with pure bliss, just as it had been long before. Long, caressing strokes worked their way along my inner thighs and made me squeal in need for relief as he teased me. Slowly he worked away, licking each side indiscriminately and causing me to audibly whine as I waited for the jackpot. Slowly, he slid his weight around me and held me in place. Part of me wondered why... hold on. Okay, anyways, where the I got a message now, and I've been cut off. A part of me wondered why though the rest of me didn't care. It felt good to be under his control, to be overpowered. Unceremoniously, as he lapped at my marehood yet again, forcing me to bellow in pleasure before shocking me by moving his tongue further up my body and onto my anus. Before I could react, his lips puckered and kissed the rim as he lightly worked his tongue into it, sending me wild with new sensations. The thought of him doing something so dirty that felt so good had me reeling in pleasure as he quickly worked a hoof over to my sensitive lips and began to rub me faster and faster. "Don't stop!" I called out, unable to control myself. "Don't stop now!" He gave no sign of stopping or even slowing as his tongue worked deeper, rubbing the insides of my ass. I had no idea why he would have wanted to do it, but now with my hips bucking against his face, pressing them deeper inside of me, there was little choice. His hoof continued to rub my sensitive zone in such a damn good way, it was quickly overwhelming. Pi, did you just draw this up?
Need a comic of that.
Nice. Nice. Pi, this is why you're awesome.
And gay.
Letting out squeal after squeal, I was almost there and I screamed, oh yes, oh.
Fucking hell.
Thank God for headphones.
Sliding his tongue from my posterior, he quickly lapped at the free-flowing, gooey goodness coming from my slits. The relief of being able to come so quickly and so freely was heaven, and the sensation of being cleaned up only made it all the better. Falling to the floor completely, disrupting his ability to finish the job, I let out a very happy sigh. That was until the sound of hooves making their way over to my face, and his body hung over mine, in almost as it had before. Quickly, his forehooves sat next to my hips, and his rear ones on either side of my face. I hope you're not too exhausted, little Pip. As much as I want you to enjoy yourself, I still don't consider this finished. Blushing madly, but quickly regaining composure, I gave him confirmation that I agreed by sliding his thick, long member into my mouth and taking it as far down as I could. Getting it past the mouth and into my throat was a struggle, something I wasn't used to doing, and it made me gag. At first, he let me go slow, enjoying the teasing I gave him by sucking on the tip more than anything else. Soon, however, he quickly grew more insatiable. Pressing my tongue against the underside of his package, I began sliding it up and down as fast as I could. Wrapping his hooves around my midsection, he uttered a small apology and began to thrust once more. With the pressing against my throat, I began to gag. A tear beginning to fill in the corner of my eye from the foreign object. Then he did it. Thrusting harder than before, he managed to penetrate past and quickly filled my throat, surprising me. The gagging stopped as I struggled to breathe momentarily, and his thrust became faster as the entire thing worked itself into me. With a slap of my ass before rubbing a hoof against my lips yet again, I uncontrollably moaned as his shaft went in and out of my throat, faster and faster. Just as quickly as it had begun, it ended when he slid out of me, still rock solid. Choking a little on the exit, he gave me a moment's pause and grinned at me before walking to the sofa, pushing it over and picking me off the floor only to lean me over the sofa. Now my head hung low with my rear up in the air, the blood rushing to my head and making me feel even dizzier than I already was. Hoping he might begin to eat me out again, I lifted my tail as high as I could and closed my eyes, letting myself relax fully for him as I waited. Yes, thank you for posting the pics as they happen in the story, Jet. I was wrong.
Good, Philly, he murmured. Just relax, and this will be okay. I promise.
I didn't understand what was going on at first, what he was talking about. My head spun and my body felt wild. Either the Mentos were wearing off and I could no longer think straight, or the lust of the moment was too strong. A firm pressure began to apply itself to my steadily winking slit as hooves hung down my sides, and then it came. My inner walls pressed apart for the first time, and he began to penetrate me. The entirely new sensation sent a chill through my body as Red Eye paused, my panting and shock completely putting a halt on the situation. How he had known that I needed him to stop to get him acclimatized to this was beyond my comprehension. But thankfully, he gave me the time, as my body began to accept the intruder, and I felt my tensed muscles begin to relax around him. With the slow progression, Red Eye soon began to work the rest of his shaft into me little by little. The feeling of being filled was one I didn't quite understand yet, but carefully, the stallion atop of me managed to hilt the entire length of his large dick.
How does it feel?
Red Eye confidently asked before letting out a small snicker. Trying my best to control my own panting, I quickly responded, Good. It feels good.
Tell me, little Pip, do you like being filled up? Do you like my entirety in your little Pip?
Biting my lip as I began to tremble in delight, I did like it. Just as I began to manage to say so, however, he gave a thrust that had me gasp for air. Yes! Celestia, fuck yes! I like you and my little Pip! With that, he began to hold
Who wrote
me.
this dialogue? Karashi Panda?
With that, he began to hold me in a grip so tight that it would have forced the air out of my lungs had it been any higher up. Instead, he held me just past the hips, no way to move anywhere that he didn't want me to go now. Leaning down and licking my ear, he made me shudder, desperate for the next move.
Good, Philly.
Quietly cooed to me as he began pulling out, making me long to be rid of the emptiness he made me feel. Seconds later, he quickly fixed that with one great thrust that forced me forward before pulling me back in one smooth motion, pushing further into me than I had before. "Oh, Celestia, fuck me!" I screamed in sudden shock, pleasure running through my whole body. Without a word, he did the same again. This time, the sensation of his thighs smacking hard against my own becoming more apparent. Without any delay, he continued. Thrust after thrust slapped against my rear and inside me, making me whine, beg, and curse the princesses.
I really hope that your room is soundproofed, Isaiah.
You've got a filthy vocabulary, little Pip.
Red Eye happily murmured, followed by a chuckle.
You like being dominated, don't you? Go on. Admit you love having a strong, charming stallion pumping you, dominating, controlling every sensation you feel, using your body for his using your body for his own pleasure. For some reason, through my panting, a smile cracked my face, and my mind thought to tell a lie to see how he would react. I knew it wasn't true, but I said it anyway. No. My breath was wimpy. Only Luna could know how I'd actually managed to make that much controlled speech come out coherently between the moans of this all-new experience. But I said it. Oh? You don't, do you?
Red-Eye questioned.
I
blurted all I could manage before he gripped tighter and began pounding away at me with such speed and power that I was left a babbling mess. Celestial Luna, fuck, oh fuck, yes, don't stop, fuck me harder, please. What's that? I couldn't quite hear you. Say it louder, Red-Eye commanded with a grunt of pleasure at the end of his sentence, obviously enjoying the situation. Luna, fuck me harder, please! By Celestia, fuck me harder, please don't stop! I screamed, unable to deny his quest. Fuck! I need to come! I need to fucking come! Fuck me hard! Fuck me first! Fuck me!
Isaiah! House. She can probably hear every fucking word.
I hope she
Oh,
Oh, man. Holy shit.
Isaiah, she. Oh, Jesus
Okay.
Christ.
Holding
I
me
should be
tight-
glad Izzy's not in here.
Who? Who?
Inui?
Oh,
Ennui. It's pronounced ennui. God.
holding me tighter was the only
I know.
warning he gave me. With increased speed and force, he fucked me harder and harder, lifting my rear legs further into the air from the sheer force of the act. My ability to think coherently quickly ceased, as all I could focus on was the rapidly increasing pleasure and immense need for the release from the intrusion. Before long, my moaning became hoarse. Yeah.
Horse.
Uh-oh.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Oh, God. Busted.
I told you. Isaiah, what are you doing? We warned you.
He's dead.
We warned you. We knew we'd be getting in trouble.
Rip basic. Oh my god.
I said, I'm calling the police. Your father will be so disappointed in you, young man.
Oh,
This is glorious.
this is the best. This is really the best outcome for this reading session, isn't it?
Yeah,
Basic gets caught by his mom.
Just send him to
So
join
who's
the
taking
military.
over?
How do
No
you
one's
explain
taking over.
that?
Fuck that shit.
I mean, I could take over.
No. Oh, hey, Basic's talking.
I told you. We warned you.
Basic, are you dead?
Oh my god. Oh.
So are are you out of the will now, Basic?
What? What was that?
He's been struck off the will.
Oh my god.
More
Oh
inheritance.
man. Oh god, that was good. Oh man. Whew. Oh
You
man.
okay?
Yeah, I'll be good. Oh.
What? She didn't say anything. Nothing at all.
He's got 2 days to leave the house.
She just shook her head in disappointment.
How much did she hear?
Pretty sure she heard.
Everything.
She could not have not heard.
Oh my god.
She doesn't.
She's
Oh,
pretending. She's pretending, Isaiah. She heard every fucking word.
She's pretending. She's
heard all
probably
of it.
pretending.
I'm gonna give her a minute.
Literally moaning at the top of your.
Oh
You were
man.
literally,
You were moaning.
you were literally screaming. You were literally.
You were screaming.
Your room's soundproof.
Alright, what did I miss? I need to know what I missed.
You gotta keep
We
doing
were
it, man.
dying.
you gotta keep
We were
going.
just- we
You
were
gotta
dying,
shoot your
that's
goo,
it.
my dude.
You're almost done. You can't stop now.
Oh man. Oh man. Woo. Oh god. Man.
That was great.
Reading your reactions. Reading your reactions to this.
Oh, you should have heard them. We were dying.
Oh man.
I don't think
Or
I've laughed so
something.
hard in
That was
ages.
it.
No,
No, your mother definitely heard all of that, Isaiah, and she's incredibly
I don't
disappointed.
think she heard. I
Nah.
don't think she heard.
She
I
had
don't think she
How
knows.
didn't she? How didn't
No,
she hear?
no, okay, no. Let me explain.
Logically.
See,
How?
she wanted me to put her fan in her room. And I was laughing the whole time, and she's like, "What are you laughing about?" And I said, "Nothing, nothing. Don't worry about it."
Okay, but
Oh
mothers
god.
pretend. That's what they do.
All right. Whew. Oh
Your mother
god.
must be.
Sorry, give me a
I'm sorry to hear that your mother's deaf, Isaiah, because you were very loud.
You were pretty loud.
Mothers do that. They just pretend they didn't hear.
They
Yeah, that's what they
pretend
do.
not to know that their kids are
They
degenerates.
try to be proud. They try.
She's
Well, I
found
mean-
all your nodding magazines.
My mom is back in her room, and she always closes her door, so her door is closed.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Do doors make things soundproof?
Oh, partially.
Basic, she heard you.
She had
Oh,
to.
man.
Yes,
Oh
accept,
god. Okay.
accept your life now.
Okay. I'm going on. Holding me tighter was the only warning he gave me. With increased speed and force, he fucked me harder and harder, lifting my rear legs further into the air from the sheer force of the act. My ability to think coherently quickly ceased, as all I could focus on was the rapidly increasing pleasure and immense need for a release from the intrusion. Ah, man. Before long, my moaning became hoarse, and squeals became full-on screams. For the first time in however long it might have been, I spoke properly. "I'm about to fucking come! Oh, princesses, yes!"
Oh my god.
A pleasant, overwhelming wave of true joy washed over me, as my entire body relaxed,
Your
my
poor
eyes
mother.
forcing shut. Red Eye let out multiple grunts of appreciation as his movements became slicker from the new lubricant releasing all over him, making it faster and faster. Breathlessness overtook me and left me unable to do a thing as he continued to fuck me senseless, using my limp body to reach his own orgasm. If this had been in any other context, it would have been wrong. Right now, it felt so right, though. So very, very right. And something I couldn't deny that I loved even after my orgasm. Oh, man.
Oh yeah.
You ready to receive your reward, little Pip? Red-Eye asked with a sense of dominance that only turned me. Yes, I weakly offered in return, glad to hear anything from him that sounded good.
Oh.
Lol, pie.
Saying lol. Saying lol in 2017.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow, fam.
All right. Anyways, moving on. As the implications of what his reward might be began to materialize in my mind, my heart rate my heart rate exceeded itself even further. The most boiling hot sensation of his member inside of me, as it twitched along to my muscles, stroking and tugging along with it, left me almost begging for his own release. Deep inside of me, a more moderate part worried about the possibility of getting pregnant, but my primal urges overwhelmed that. Ultimately, I was left with no choice in the matter anyway. Red Eye's grip was too strong by now, his determination too fierce. Seconds later, he released his seed deep into me with a groan so loud it almost matched my own as I felt the hot liquid covering my insides, and suddenly having a very calming effect on me.
Her pomegranate seed?
Unexpectedly, his grip pulled me from the sofa. I laid across and against his chest as he caressed my body and lowered himself down to the floor in a less than subtle motion that had us both crashing down. Still, he held on tight, however, keeping me firmly pressed against him as his dick remained inside of my little pip, as he called it.
Christ, why did you reference that again?
The feeling of his hooves
He's
touching
really proud of that joke.
and fondling my chest and nipples made me shiver with unexpected delight. Gentle, caring kisses planted along the length of my neck, and just as I had before, I melted into Red Eye's charming grasp.
Stay with me like this for tonight, little Pip. Please?
Red Eye quietly asked in such a way that made it seem much less like the demands he had been making minutes earlier, and much more like an earnest request of some pony who wanted to share a wonderful moment with another pony, perhaps some pony he liked. Cocking a smile as I closed my eyes and held on to his grip, I gave him an answer that would have surprised me before now.
Absolutely.
And that's the end of the story.